Hello, and welcome to Insights in Action with Orange 142, where we interview agency leaders and business owners to uncover the journeys, strategies, and insights that drive their success. At Orange 142, we're all about transforming brand stories into impactful digital experiences through innovative media and marketing solutions. And today, I'm very lucky to be joined by Rick Liebling of VSC. How's it going, Rick?
Hey, it's great. Shiv, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate
Yeah.
it. Looking forward to it.
For sure. Thank you so much for being on. And I would love to start this off just by understanding a little bit more about you, Rick, and your background, and a little bit more about VSC.
Yeah, sure, of course. So I've got a varied and interesting, I think, background. Started off in PR within the world of professional baseball. 2 years in the
Wow.
minors. Yeah, 2 years in the minors, and then moved up to the majors as just like players, but on the front office side, and worked for a year with the New York Yankees. Was with the Yankees in 1996, which some of the sports fans out there may recall was the year they had won the World Series after not having done so for quite a while. And one of the many interesting things there was once we made the playoffs, I became the assistant to the traveling secretary. And for you Seinfeld fans out there, that was George Costanza's job. So
Oh,
I
wow.
was the real life George Costanza in 1996. Then I moved over to the public relations agency side, did a lot on the consumer side, working with big brands like MasterCard, Gillette, and with folks like that, went all over the world for Olympics and World Cups and Formula One races and all kinds of great stuff. More recently, I've been, especially here with VSC, working with tech startups across a wide range of verticals. Right now, of course, AI is incredibly hot, doing stuff with some space startups as well. It's really a privilege to work at VSC because the types of clients we have are, you hear the word cutting edge. These folks really are, whether it's making new AI chips and semiconductors or biotech, as I said, space. We're really doing stuff with some really fantastic startups and founders.
Wow. That's really interesting. What a varied set of experiences.
Yeah.
And you worked with some really cool companies. New York Yankees, how long were you with them for?
So it was just a year, but it was my third year in baseball. And I got to tell you, it's a lot of work. If a game ends at 11 o'clock, you're usually there for at least an hour afterwards. And then if you have a day game Saturday the next day, you're in at 6 a.m. I didn't travel with the team until we made the playoffs, but that's really brutal too. If you're traveling every couple of days all over the country and you've got those hours, it can be tough. So it was time to switch over to the agency side, something a little more stable.
Yeah, yeah, you're like one of the unsung heroes. All the players get so much attention, but there's so many people that, walk by, you do all of the work behind the scenes like yourself, which is cool. I was wondering like how long you worked there because I was raised in Arizona since I was 4 years old. And I very vividly remember, I was very young at the time, but I very vividly remember the 2001 World Series, Arizona
Okay.
versus New York.
Yeah.
And I remember how bad that year New York needed that World Series. And then Arizona just our one and only championship for the entire state, I think. I might get corrected on that, I'm not sure. But that was the one year that Arizona was like, nope, we're going to take it from you, New York. So that's
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting that you
Yeah. There were
remember
some
that.
good players, a couple of top pitchers. Was Randy Johnson on that Diamondbacks team? He might have
Yeah,
been.
he
But
was.
yeah, that was a good one, certainly.
Yeah. So you work with startups. That's awesome. I love that you guys work with cutting edge startups. I think that's one of the things that we see, or like at least I saw with your website, is there's this, you can tell you work with these cutting edge. Like your agency itself is very cutting edge too. At least and I think you have to be when you're working with the companies like you do.
Yeah, they're very agile and they're moving very fast. And as a result, we have to move fast too. So whether it is what we do with AI in our everyday work or being able to not just rely on traditional PR tactics, but to get into video and social and other aspects of marketing communications for our clients, we do whatever we need to do because so many of them are so young in their maturation process, both as companies and as founders. They often don't have the time or the experience or the understanding on how important it is to create a story around their brand, both as a founder and as a company. When there are so many different startups right now, say in the EV space or in AI, as I mentioned. How do you differentiate yourself, right? How is your AI chip different than somebody else's AI chip? And if you can't explain that in a compelling way, in a way that hits someone not just with the technical aspects, but with the emotional truth of what it means, what you're doing, you can get lost in the shuffle very easily. We use every type of tool we can to help founders tell those stories.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's really interesting. You guys, especially in your world, there you see these kind of trends, or at least I see them from the outside. For like in the 2010s, everybody was trying to be the Uber of something, and now everybody is trying to be the AI of something.
Right.
And so it must be an interesting thing to be like, you see the same thing over and over again when you get into the startup world, and then your job is very unique and challenging in that, okay, that's cool that you guys are doing the AI of this, but how do we differentiate? Because for the end consumer, it's so easy to be like, oh my God, another AI thing, another AI thing. And so that's where your challenge must lie, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny you give that example because I would say 5 or 6 years ago, we would say, okay, we need to have a shorthand for your company. And we
Yeah.
would give the example of Uber for X.
Yeah.
And now it's very much open AI for X.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to create those stories. So often we work with engineers, right? And these people who are very much of a certain type of mindset and want to get deep into the weeds into how their technology works. And we have to explain to them, you've got maybe 15 seconds to catch somebody. And
Yes.
if you're going to spend 5 minutes in a video trying to explain everything on how you're different, it's not going to work. People are watching 15, 25, 30-second videos. You have to be able to explain it that fast.
Yeah.
And that just shows where we are right now in the media landscape and culturally.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you said it yourself, you have to move at lightning speed because startups often move at lightning speed. How do you keep communications aligned with their rapid growth and their evolving priorities?
I think it's important to have a good and open line of communication between the agency and the client. So many times a client will say, or someone will ask me, what's the best type of client you can have? And it's really one that's open to communication and that can move quickly in a communications environment. Because you're right, things do move quickly. With a startup, they can be going on plan A and then something happens and they have to move to plan B very quickly. So we have to be agile like that too. Part of the way we do that is we're always taking a look at what's happening within that particular vertical from a news standpoint. What are the websites, the Substacks talking about? What's going on social media within this particular category? And we try to bring that knowledge to our clients, making sure that they're up to speed on everything that's going on so that we can make changes quickly if we need to. And we're all aligned with those changes based on what we're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting challenge. That's
Yeah.
a very unique and niche challenge, but that's really interesting. So, how do you guys even measure like the success of communications for startups, especially when they're balancing goals across funding, growth, and hiring?
Yeah, and it varies from client to client based on the stage they're at or what their needs are. So in some cases, they'll come to us and say, "Hey, we're looking to raise an investment round. We need to get some broad awareness so that people are on we're on their radar." So here's an example in that case. Had a client in the space industry vertical and talking to them and strategizing with them, we recognized that a piece in TechCrunch was going to get in front of the right people for them. So we did an exclusive with TechCrunch, great story. And what was the KPI on that, right? When our client said to us, we had something like 40 inbounds based off of that story, right?
Yeah.
And it was coming from big players within the aerospace industry. It was coming from investors who wanted to talk to them. That's one way we might look to measure success, right? In another example, it was a case where the founder really needed to raise his profile. So we said, we're going to do 100 videos in 100 days. And we probably took several 1 hour periods where we asked a question, filmed for an hour or two, and got 20 little mini clips out of that. And those mini clips were maybe 35, 40 seconds on issues that were important in the industry, this founder's POV on what was happening, his behind the scenes look at what they were doing at their company. And every day for 100 days, we had a video out there. So that helped raise his profile so that investors, potential customers could see him and recognize that he really knew what he was talking about. And he and his company were leaders in the industry.
Wow, it must be so cool working with startups and if their goal is funding, for example, you guys do the amazing work that you do and it like directly contributes to another stage of successful funding or something like that. That must be really rewarding.
Yeah, as I mentioned at the top, I've worked with companies like MasterCard and Gillette, and you can do a PR program with them. But at the end, did we really sell more razors? How do we know if we sold more razors for Gillette? But
Yeah.
when you're working with a startup and they don't have $100 million advertising budget and they're not doing all kinds of point of sale material because we work with B2B startups. So something that we do for them, we can many times very clearly see the impact that it has and see the real difference it can make for them.
Yeah, for sure. And so like on the other end, do you think like a company like OpenAI, they caught fire so quickly. They reached it was some insane stat of a million or a billion users or something like that in like record amounts of time. They were doing a lot of like PR to get out there. Sam Altman was on a bunch of interviews, podcasts, all that stuff they were doing. Do you think that it was the fact that it was this new technology that had come out at the time it did that's the reason it caught fire? Do you think that it was the PR work it did? Do you think it was like the perfect storm of both of those things? Like what? I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think there's sometimes a misconception that PR can paper over a deficiency in a product. And that's just not the case. We can talk to the media and we can open up channels, but if the product itself doesn't really soar, then the media have some other thing to talk about.
Yeah.
I think with the case of OpenAI, they came out with a product that was truly mind-blowing for not just a very niche group within the kind of tech space, but it was something that you could roll out to your cousin
Mhm.
or your mom, and it wouldn't take her very long or him very long or whatever to say, oh, wow, I get this. Right. So they had a really interesting product. They had a really interesting founder and they hit the gas and went for it and it worked out really well. But I think again, just to go back to that, if you don't have a product that's ready for prime time, you might be able to get one or two placements here or there from a PR perspective, or you can put up an ad. But as soon as people start to use the product, they're going to find out very quickly whether or not you've got the goods. And if you don't, then it doesn't make any difference how much PR you've got.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really interesting insight. I could see that perfect storm for something like OpenAI. It was just meant for, and it becomes a win-win when you talk about earned media. You've got this amazing product, and media outlets, if you're placing this media on there, they want to talk about it because it's
Sure.
interesting, and then they know that's what's going to get them clicks and views and all of that stuff. So if you can create something like that, I think a lot of that doesn't come without really testing the market beforehand. And I think I'm hoping it's changing now, but in this startup world, I felt like there was this for a while, there was like, I'm just going to go create something without doing any market testing to see if this is actually what people need. So they would build the widget first and then they'd be like, let's go test and see if people want it. When it should be, let's go test if people would want this and then let's go build based on what they say.
Yeah, I call that a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah, yes.
Right. So I think what you're saying is right on, right? You have to be able to meet people's needs or solve a pain point or in some way produce something that's not in the market or that's a big improvement on what's currently in the market. And I think the best founders are ones who have that passion for what they're building. It's not just a, hey, I think we can make money over there. It's, I want to build some sort of new cancer screening technology because my father had cancer. Or there was some problem that they felt very personally, and that gives them the drive to create something that they know people need because they needed it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point. And there's that founder story ends up being so powerful because people will resonate with that. Rick, this has been so wonderful. Thank you for all of your insights. Where can people learn more about you and where can people learn more about VSC?
Sure, certainly you can check me out on LinkedIn, Rick Liebling, as well. You'll find me. Same on X at Rick Liebling. And you can check out all kinds of stuff, great stuff about VSC. Our URL is vsc.co. We've got case studies there, and you can get an idea of the different types of companies that we work with and industries and verticals that we're in. So, yeah, by all means, give us a shout.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on. This is great.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure. It was great talking to you. I enjoyed it very much.
Thanks.